So guys, once again I'm with another video. Today's topic is journey of procurement. Very important topic during the PMP exam, and this topic will carry forward to the new syllabus as well, because as long as the PMI practice the American contract law, this topic will carry forward, and projects and procurements goes together. You always need to have support from a third party vendor. So planned procurement is a very process, and the very first thing you need to do is you need to do a determination whether you are going to buy or you are going to make inside whatever the requirement. So you are doing an analysis here, a calculation, what is cheaper, what is best for the company. All right, and then if the answer is yes, if you are going to buy it's outside, and then you need to follow the procurement flow. All right, so first thing you do it, you need to select a contract type which tells what is best for the buyer and what is best for the seller as well. You need to keep the seller happy as well and create a win-win situation, and you need to have a selection criteria to have a best practice, a fair practice when selecting the best seller. And you need to have a statement of work which will tell what exactly to be done via a third party vendor. And we also need to have an independent cost estimate. This is like a reference guide. We will determine what cost will take to do this work by outside party by using expert judgment, or else we also can go for a third party research group. So that will add more cost, but that's the best thing to do. And then we move to the second but the most important process in procurement, that is conduct procurement. This is where most of the questions will come in the exam, because this is where they will question you about your fair practices, about your ethical behaviors, ethical handling the contracts and the projects. So first thing you do is you advertise the opportunity. You need to advertise in a fair way using various medias. And then next thing you do is you conduct a bidder conference. At the same time you can collect the proposal as well. So bidder conference, what it does is like it allows all the sellers to come into one platform and discuss all the doubts and clear all the doubts and make sure that they'll be quoting in fair way to the given opportunity. And then you evaluate proposal. If you remember the selection criteria, we take this document to evaluate, and then same document we shortlist. Again the same document we practice what we have done in the planning. And then guys, what we need to do is we need to negotiate. We need to agree to certain prices, the quality levels and those things. Here PM's soft skills come into handy. So we need to negotiate, and then we select a seller. We select a specific seller. If we are happy with them, we select. And then to make it more legal, we need to make a formal agreement. Okay, so in procurements, whatever the communication we do with the third party, we do with the seller, it has to be formally written. So make sure that whenever the communication comes into procurements, it has to be formally written documentation, the communication. Okay, then obviously they will deliver the product. This delivery, now we go to the third and the final process group, that is control procurements. So once we get all the products in from the vendor, what we need to do is, that is obvious, we need to do a quality check, that is inspection or audit. So we need to inspect or audit the product or whatever the delivery they have done. So once again, two things could happen. They can accept whatever the inspection audit mistake, or else they can dispute. So if it's a dispute, they will end up in a conflict. So we need to make sure the conflict is resolved in a proper way, a fair practice. Once again, we need to negotiate, and then only we can go for ADR and they move on to the next stages. So then only we close the procurements. If there's no conflicts, if there's no open ADRs, then only we can close the procurements. If we have paid the seller, then only we can close the procurements. So keep that in mind. We cannot close the procurements if there's any cases open, and then we update the documents properly, the procurement documents for future projects. And then these procurement process now links with the final process group, that is close project of phase. Because this is very important, we cannot close the project if any procurement is open. So that is very important area the exam will question you. So make sure that you follow this protocols, this project flow, this procurement process flow. And next we're going to discuss about the contracts, the how, what are the contract types, and when to use what contract with a seller, when to use, when to have a win-win situation with that particular seller. So now let's talk about types of contractual agreements. This is an important topic because most of the time, as you all know, procurement is a very small chapter. When you read the chapter, you tend to think that understand all the concepts. But when you see a question, when the question asks you what type of contract you should use, then it will make your life difficult. Then only you started thinking that you need to read more on the chapter and you go back and read again, but still the problem is not solved. The issue is you need to understand when to use each contract type, then only you'll get the practice. Whenever you see a question, you can easily select what type of contract you should go. So let's start, but first thing you need to remember is, once again, you need to make sure you are practicing a very fair way. So the first thing with contracts is you need to have a good contract that will give you as a buyer and also the seller the best chance of success. So it's all about creating a win-win situation, right? So let's move on. First we are going to talk about fixed price contracts. So it's also known as lump sum contracts. So if you see in the exam lump sum contracts, they talk about fixed price contracts. So make sure that you know these words as well, because at the exam they might come with lump sum rather than telling you directly fixed price contracts. So there are three types under fixed price contracts. So first one is firm fixed price, the next one is fixed price plus incentive fee, and the third one is fixed price with economic cost adjustment. So they also can come up with FFP, FPIF, FPEPA likewise. So meanwhile you remember the full name, you need to also remember this the short formula as well. Right, so let's move on, guys. The very first contract type, that is firm fixed price. So if you have some experience with the previous projects doing handling a similar contract, similar type of work, then you can go for a firm fixed price, because you have some experience with the cost, with the time, and with all the other factors associated with that contract, with that outsourced work. So when you have something like that in your hand, then with previous experience, then you can quote a fixed price to the seller, which will be the best option as the buyer, because it will create you it will put you into a safe zone. Okay, so fixed price firm fixed price is a very less risky to the buyer. The only risk is the seller doesn't deliver because of the cost. Sometimes down the line, if the cost increase, then the seller might not deliver the project. So particular work, if in that case you'll have to go for ADR, you have to go for a legal action. So that is a risk that the buyer has. On the other hand, the same risk to the seller, because if the unexpected cost increase, then the seller will have to bear that cost, and it will not create any benefit for the seller, right? So seller has more risk in this particular contract type, and buyer has less risk. Okay, so let's move on. Next one is fixed price plus incentive fee. This is where the confusion begins, because many people tend to confuse the FPIP, the fixed price plus incentive, and fixed price plus the cost plus incentive fee, those two contracts. So the difference is the fixed price plus incentive fee play with the time, like you negotiate the time with the seller, and you give a incentive, a percentage if they deliver quickly. So for example, let's imagine now we are doing a road construction project. We need to complete exactly in 3 months time, and what you offer to your seller is a fixed price, plus you also tell that since the time span is 3 months, you tell the seller that if you deliver, the seller delivers in 2 months time, that you will pay an incentive upfront, incentive for saving that time. Okay, so you play with the time, and you encourage your seller to do the work more time efficiently. All right, if they do time efficiently, that's a benefit for you. The time is a benefit for you. So for that, you are paying a extra percentage for the seller. All right. So they will evaluate whatever the incentive, and if that incentive is really good, what they would do is they can put more resources in, and they can get done the work quickly if that particular incentive is really good. So that is how you negotiate with the seller to go for a fixed price plus incentive fee contract type. So if the contract talk about outsourcing and the concern, they have no concern about the cost, but they have a time limitation, and this is the contract you should go for. If you want to get a contract done earlier, the fixed price plus incentive fee is the best option you need to select. All right, so let's move on. As you can see in the slide, there are risk to buyer and also risk to seller, but they are mostly similar to uh, the fixed price contract type, the FFP contract type. Okay, so let's move on to the next one. So economic cost adjustment. So whenever you see a question that a project goes about like long, like 10, 15, 20, or maybe 50 years, this is the contract type you should go, because the economic conditions in the country, in this region, in the world will change during this kind of time. Or else if they tell that some economic adjustment is due to be done or to be practiced in near future in the question, then this is the contract. So wherever the financial economical things are discussed in the question and it goes for a longer time, this is the contract type you need to select. This is very straightforward. When you see such question, you can easily select this contract type. Okay, so let's move on to the next type, that is reimbursable contract. That is once again we have three type of contracts. So first one is cost plus fixed fee, and cost plus award fee, cost plus incentive fee. Okay, so the first one, cost plus fixed fee, once again it's like very straightforward. The meaning of the contract says what it is. So you agree with your seller to pay a certain amount, like let's say 5,000 you pay for your seller as a fixed fee, and plus on top of that you are agreed to pay whatever the cost occurring, the materials and the manpower. All right, so it is very straightforward once again. So if the question discuss about a fixed fee plus whatever the cost that you are agreed to pay, whatever the cost, this is the contract type. So you need to break down your question and understand what the question is talking about. If it's talking about a fixed fee plus cost reimbursable, and this is the contract type you need to go. Right, guys, this is a very important contract type, because this is the least effective, because this makes a lot of risk to the seller. Right, because as you can see, it's cost plus award fee, there's no fixed fee for the seller. If the buyer is happy with the work, end of the day, end of the project, seller buyer agrees to pay a award fee. So this award fee is not nominated before. If that's the case, then it creates more risky for the sellers, because that award fee might not make the seller happy, might not make sellers profit margin bigger. If the buyer decide to pay a very small amount, there's a huge risk for the seller by going into this kind of situation, this kind of a contract. So keep that in mind when you see this kind of contract in the exam. This is the one creates more risk to the sellers. All right, so let's move on. So as you remember, we discussed about fixed price incentive fee, and this is the next variation, cost plus incentive fee. In this case, we are dealing with we are trying to save cost. Okay, so I'll come up with an example. Let's say we are building up a dam which cost you 100 million. So what you do is, you know, the estimation, the independent cost estimation tells you that it will cost you 100 million. So what you do is, you contact a seller, you tell the sellers that if they complete the work within 60 million, you will pay them 25% extra. All right, so in this case you'll end up paying the entire contract lesser than 100 million. all right, but you are creating a win-win situation for you by saving some funds, and also for the seller, so they will gain some extra incentive for the work that they are doing, but they are trying to minimize the cost. So they will practice many practices uh, during the project, during their production, during their work, to save cost. So that's and plus point for you as the buyer, and plus point for seller as well, because at end of the day they will earn more, they will earn an additional incentive. uh, if it's attractive, they will go for it and they will try to save more cost, right? So this is another type, another very common type during the exam, and another question type that will make a lot of confusion between fixed price, incentive fee, and fixed with this. So make sure that you understand the concept, and make sure that you understand the example as well. So if you understand the example, it will make your life more easier, right? And with that, we move on to the last contract, that is time and materials. So this guy is very straightforward. Once again, the type of contract tells you the story. It's all about dealing with time and materials. When you don't know how long the project will take, how long you need materials to be shipped in, how long you need manpower to work on the project, then it's the type you need to go for. This is more risky for you and the seller, both the parties. But if you don't know that timeline, this is the best option you have, right? So in this case, time means the manpower hours, the number of working hours for the resources, and materials, of course, the materials that you're going to use during the project, right? So in this case, to avoid the risk, to limit the risk, what you do is, only thing you can do is, like, you can put a clause in the contract that you will terminate or you will end the project if it reach certain amount, let's say 100,000. If it extend 100,000, you will terminate or you will discuss further or something like that. You can enter term in the within the contract, okay, to save your cost or save your company and the seller as well, right? So you can enter multiple terms into this contract and have a control. Otherwise this contract will go out of control very easily, right? So guys, these are the contract types. I hope I made certain points clear, and I made clarification. If in case you need more, just go back and try to understand each and every contract. Make sure once you finish going through this video that you will not have any confusion going forward towards the exam answering these questions from contract types, and you can easily select what contract to be selected as soon as you see the question. All right, so all the best. Let's meet in the next video.